This proved that the CIA can reach any heights to stop India from becoming a nuclear powered country. Investigation, they declared it as the pilot's mistake. But what was the actual story behind it? Unlike the usual, no autopsy was performed on his body. What was this nuclear program that he designed for our country? But despite all that, we completed our mission in the year 1974. Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Today I wanted to talk about the Indian nuclear program controversy. All of us know that India now has an atomic bomb, but because of that project we lost two gems of a scientist from India in the year 1966 and 1971. But despite all that, we completed our mission in the year 1974. I'm going to divide this video into 5 parts. First, I'm going to tell you about the science involved behind a nuclear reactor and an atomic bomb, because I'm going to reference to many things that Homi Bhabha was planning to do, and it is important for you to know the science behind it first to understand that well. Then I'm going to tell you about Homi Bhabha's life and the nuclear program that he proposed and his controversial death. Then we are going to talk about Vikram Sarabhai, exactly same as Homi Bhabha, and also talk about his controversial death. Then we are going to talk about what led to India becoming an atomic country, because we never planned to do that. The world was against it, but what pushed us to do that? And finally, we will talk about how India became a nuclear country, how we finally completed the nuclear project that we were supposed to in the year 1968, but we did that in 1974. I am Shruti Singh, and without any further ado, let's get started. Okay, so the basic principle that the entire atomic science and nuclear reactors are based on is mass energy conversion, which is E equals mc squared, which means a tiny amount of mass can create enormous amount of energy. In an atomic bomb, this happens through nuclear fission, where a heavy atomic nuclei splits into tinier nuclei, releasing energy and neutrons with it. To trigger this reaction, the bigger atomic nuclei, the bigger atomic substance, is bombarded with tinier neutrons. This reaction can happen in 2 ways: controlled fission and uncontrolled fission. In controlled reaction, the chain reaction is controlled using moderators and rods. This type of phenomena is used in nuclear power plants. On the other hand, in uncontrolled reaction, this reaction continues to happen until all the energy is released. This type of reaction is used in atomic bombs. The minimum amount of fissile material needed to have an uncontrolled reaction is called critical mass. An atomic bomb can be designed in 2 ways. One is a gun type assembly, which was used in the Hiroshima attack. In this type of bomb, uranium-235 is used, and 2 of which are kept apart. Then a gun is fired by one of them into another one, which leads to a chain reaction. When combined, they form a supercritical mass. The second type of bomb is called implosion type assembly, which was used in the Nagasaki bomb attack. And this is the type of bomb which India had from the 1974 Smiling Buddha test. In this type of bomb, plutonium-239 is used, and it is surrounded by explosives. When detonated, explosives compress the plutonium core, which in turn increases its density and eventually resulting into a chain reaction. The core of Smiling Buddha has about 6 kgs of plutonium-239, and it can yield around 8 kilotons of TNT equivalent. And the neutron initiator used in it is likely a polonium-beryllium type. Now I hope you guys understood the basic understanding of how an atomic reaction happens and how an atomic bomb is created. Now let's talk a little about Homi Bhabha. Homi Bhabha was born in the year 1909, and in Cambridge he mastered theoretical physics. He worked on cosmic rays, Bhabha scattering, etc. He created Tata Institute of Fundamental Research (TIFR) and he led the Atomic Energy Commission. He even founded the Atomic Energy Establishment Trombay. Now, what was this nuclear program that he designed for our country? It was a 3-stage program. Stage 1, pressurized heavy water reactors, PHWR. In this process, he used natural uranium as fuel and heavy water as moderator. Reactors produced plutonium in their spent fuel. Stage 2, fast breeder reactors (FBR). In this process, he used plutonium in fast reactors to breed more fissile materials and eventually multiplying the stock. Stage 3, thorium to uranium 233 cycle. Thorium-232 in itself is not that explosive. It is converted into uranium-233 inside the reactors. This stage requires closed fuel cycle technology. Now, this was the 3-stage program that he designed for India's nuclear program. But how did he die? And what was the whole controversy behind it? On the 24th of January in the year 1966, he boarded an Air India flight AI-101 flying from Bombay to New York via Geneva. It had around 117 passengers and Bhabha was one of them. But on the way to Geneva itself, the flight crashed into Mont Blanc in France. On investigation, they declared it as the pilot's mistake. But what was the actual story behind it? Bhabha's confidence in India's nuclear power shook the West. The Central Intelligence Agency CIA wanted to prevent India from completing its nuclear program. Everyone knew about this, and yet no investigation was done on this plane crash. As Mont Blanc glaciers have now melted, some archived documents from the crash have been recovered, showing important documents of India's nuclear program. Now after this, let's talk about Vikram Sarabhai a little, and then at the end of this, we'll put 2 and 2 together and reach the final conclusion. Vikram Sarabhai was the founder of India's space program. He set up INCOSPAR, which basically laid the basic structure for the current ISRO that we have. After Bhabha's death, he became the chairman of Atomic Energy Commission. He crossed paths with Homi Bhabha in the 1940s at IISc Bangalore. Bhabha was conducting theoretical and experimental nuclear physics, and Sarabhai was studying cosmic rays. Bhabha then mentored Sarabhai on high energy physics, and eventually Bhabha appointed Sarabhai to lead India's space program. After Bhabha's death, Vikram Sarabhai stepped up to lead India's nuclear program. And at some point, he was leading the space and nuclear program of India simultaneously. Now, how did he die and why was his death also controversial? He died on the 30th of December in the year 1971 at a hotel called Halcyon Castle in Kovalam. He was there in Kovalam to review some rocket designs. The official cause of death that we got to know was cardiac arrest. But then what was the controversy behind it? After the death of a great figure, usually an autopsy is performed and is released to the general public. But unlike the usual, no autopsy was performed on his body and no information was released for the public. And he was only 52 when he died of cardiac arrest. And he had no other health issues prior to that. The country leaders who showed full support to him in the nuclear program and the space program also had a very controversial death. For example, Lal Bahadur Shastri had a very disputed death in the year 1966. This proved that the CIA can reach any heights to stop India from becoming a nuclear powered country. But we still did it. But what exactly led to this happening? Why did we have to be a nuclear powered country? In the 1940s and 50s, Bhabha's vision was not for weapons. In fact, after establishing the AEC, he said, India will use atomic energy for peaceful purposes, for power generation, medicine and agriculture. Then what happened? Sino-India War. That is what happened in the year 1962. India suffered a humiliating defeat against China, and that was the turning point of our nuclear program. After this war, the news spread all across the world that China is conducting nuclear experiments and is going to have nuclear weapons very soon with Soviet help. Bhabha and many other leaders of India realized that now only nuclear strength can help us have a very good chance against a country like China. By the year 1964, China already tested its first nuclear weapon, Operation 596 in Loknar. This was the moment India's nuclear program turned strategic. Bhabha was very passionate about the nuclear program, and our nuclear program was accelerating at an unimaginable pace. But suddenly, his death leads to a stop, a pause that no one expected. Vikram Sarabhai stepped in, but after his death again there was a small pause and a mourning period that everyone was going through. But this mourning period could not last long because in the year 1971 Indo Pak war also happened. Pakistan used US carriers against India, and that led to the reinforcement of India's nuclear program. Now let's come to the golden year of 1974, when India finally became a nuclear equipped country. How did it exactly go? Dr. Raja Ramanna headed the BARC team that designed and executed the device and test preparations, and Prime Minister Indira Gandhi authorized the test. It was codenamed Smiling Buddha in India, but many people in the US called it Happy Krishna. In the Pokhran desert range in Rajasthan, the test was carried out in extreme secrecy, and it was announced as a peaceful nuclear explosion, which we also know as PNE. The device type was an implosion one. It was a plutonium-based device assembled at BARC. I already talked about the designing of the atomic bomb in the beginning of the video, but this is how India became a nuclear equipped country. Though after the success of this mission in the year 1974, we had to suffer many diplomatic consequences, like Canada suspended its nuclear cooperation with the country and all of that. But at the end of the day, in the long run, all of the things that we had to go through after completing the nuclear mission did not matter. All that mattered was that now India was a nuclear equipped country, and the death of those two gems of the scientists that India lost was paid for. Reading through the life story of Homi Bhabha and Vikram Sarabhai, I as a person can say that it is not possible that so many coincidences happen for so many deaths, and not just theirs. Many people were dying during that phase, whosoever was involved in the nuclear program of India, be it politically or scientifically. Anyways, what do you think about this? Would you call it a coincidence of like these many deaths happening, or would you say that the CIA and other countries were actually involved in this? For me, it would be the latter one. I hope that this video was descriptive enough and that you understood the science behind an atomic bomb as well, and that you also got to know about the controversy. I already made 2 short videos on these topics, and because of that I decided to make a longer one to actually explain everything in further details, because I don't think 1 or 2 minutes can justify this entire thing. Also, these are the 3 topics that I have in mind for the next week. Tell me how you liked this video. Don't forget to like, follow, share and subscribe, and I will keep on bringing shorts to you on a daily basis. You will see a short on my channel every day. I try and bring up new topics. I research very deeply about each and everything that I talk about. So please show your support, and until the next week, that is when I'll make another long video and post it. Until the next week, have a good day, have a good life. Bye bye.